Another last Saturday of the month. Another last Saturday of the month. You want some coffee? You want some coffee? No? Oh, I offered. You didn't want any. I offered. You want some? You want some of this? No? It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Caffeine? No? You don't like caffeine? Banana flavored? You don't like bananas? Oh. Nothing I can do about that. That's what we got. Good morning. Hello, and good morning, everyone. Come here. Come here. Come here. What? All right. Hello, guys. What type of snake is that? This is a ball python. You know the routine. We give it about 5 minutes. Good morning, Peggy. We give it about 5 minutes, and then we'll hit my topics. We'll answer your guys' questions all the same. Although there's going to be a pretty big focal topic that I've been getting spammed a ton about, which has to do with bringing your reptile. So in the Midwest, we had like a little heat wave come over. Not bad, but people have brought up the topic of, is it safe to bring their reptiles out when it's this hot outside? And we'll go over that. We will go over that because the answer is not as simple as you would think. I would love if these answers were just yes or no every time. That would be awesome. Quite rarely are they that simple. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday morning here. 4th of July next weekend, which means I have a 3-day weekend from work. Isn't that going to be awesome? Maybe the family will do a barbecue, which would be even more awesome, What do you think? You don't know? That's good. If you don't know, you don't know. He's a pretty snake. How old is he? Oh, I'd have to look. I don't remember offhand. I don't remember, but if I were to guess, which would be a guess, maybe 6 to 8 years old. This is a good question, Fritz. It is a he. Yeah, that's why he's smaller like this, because it's male. Oh, we got a couple more minutes. Oh, that coffee's so delicious. It's so delicious. Ooh. Rescue Ready Drew Roadside LLC. What a giant name, and good morning. I do like that letter R you have there. So on a note, do female ball pythons get bigger than male? Yeah, on that note, let me see if I can think of one. Give me a moment. The short answer is yes, but I'm trying to think if there's any species of snake where the male is actually larger than the female. No, offhand, I can't even think of one. For almost all, so snakes are sexually dimorphic. The females have to either carry a ton of eggs or live babies. So they will be about anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 larger than the male will be. So the females are much bigger. In fact, sometimes with ball pythons, you don't see it as often because when they're pairing. But when you see anyone breeding like a reticulated python or an anaconda, even larger boas, red tail boas, Burmese pythons, you see these giant, fat, long, 15, 16, 17-foot females that are thick, like this thick around, and then a male gets in there that's about that thick around and 8 feet. And you're like, well, what's the female's going to kill this dude? No, that's just how it is. The females need that size because they need to carry the eggs or the young. And most, not all, most lizards, it's the opposite, where the male is about a third larger. All right, it's 9:05. I'm going to shotgun the little bit less of this coffee, and then we're going to hit the topics and we'll answer your guys' questions. Light, give me strength. Bam. Do you breed ball pythons? What a great question. Glad you asked. I do not breed, but my brother does breed. Uh, he's got a lot of cool stuff, pies and desert ghosts, and maybe I'll do a video one time when I go over to his home. I help set up his breeding room with his rack and his incubators in there, his little chest freezer with their food. It's its own little locked room with a security camera in it. It's in his basement. Um, and it's really nice, and it's a really nice tight room, which is really important too. So uh, people want these giant rooms, and when you have a giant room like that, it's very hard to control the temperature and humidity evenly throughout the room. You got a nice tight room like that, you can control it so perfectly. Have you ever used the Has he ever used the bathroom on you? Yeah. So, that's a good question. That's for smaller snakes, it doesn't happen. And I should say most of the time for snakes, it doesn't happen. Now, you may see this sometimes with really large snakes. And that is because they're super large and you're handling them. So there's a lot of water in here. And when you start picking it up, you start pushing that down, and a large snake can't help it. It will just, you know, larger snakes will pee out 1 to 2 gallons of water when they pee. That's a lot of water to be sitting in there. And you squeeze on that bladder and it releases. That's just what happens. So it's not even that they want to pee on you, it's that you put the pressure at the right point. It doesn't cause the snake any pain or anything, but you just open up the valve, and the valve, they can't stop it. It just comes out. And then on top of that, if they have any fecal matter in there, because it's one process, you pushing on all that water will make them empty the chamber out. So, but with that being said, no, smaller snakes, I've never seen a smaller snake go to the bathroom on anybody. It just doesn't happen. Off topic, is that manga on your left? Yeah, a little bit, kind of a little nerd here. This is you've not seen it. So remember, if you're a Discord member, you kind of get behind the scenes stuff, but a Discord member has seen more. So over here is kind of my bookshelf is here. And when I film, I just kind of throw everything in the corner here to make room. But then I've got a huge wall of board games here, and it's pretty sweet. So if you donate on Patreon, you can come into the Discord, which I'm there every day, and so are other members. Video chats, voice chats, text chats, lots of pictures, lots of questions. It's a cool place to be. It's a really great benefit, and it keeps us in touch. You can't, I mean, well, like, yeah, you can't. Well, I mean, if you see Dragon Ball Z, you kind of know right away, right? So let me hit my first topic here, which is the important topic, so we can get the meat and veggies done at the beginning here, because this is really important so people don't have to wait if they're watching later in the video to see this. And it's about bringing your reptiles out when it's extremely hot outside. All right. And this has become more relevant to BS now because you always have hot summers. So I live in Michigan, for anyone who doesn't know, come here. And typically we see as a high, like at the hottest points of the summer, which would be this month and next month, we do see high 90s, very common, 98, 99, 101, 102. things like that for a couple days. That's normal, happens every year. Most of our summer heat, though, is in the low to mid 80s. That's typically where we sit for most of the summer. Unfortunately, um, that's changed, like, especially in the last decade. So I was a big gardener, and we used to have a very long summer, and it was hot, high 90s, low hundreds, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, and for long periods of time. So that's gone. We don't get near that heat anymore. It's unfortunate, and our summer high heat season has shrunk significantly. So when you're growing things that require 4 or 5 months of high heat, we don't have it anymore here. The state has cooled down drastically. I mean, the whole world is in a cooling period right now. I read the New York Times article that we're hitting record colds, which is really cool. The icebergs are growing like never before. They're just becoming huge, and we're getting cooler weather all around. So kind of sucks if I don't know how farmers do it if you don't have a greenhouse. So especially too overnight, when we would get like 80s, but then we would drip down to like low 60s, high 50s. By the time those your vegetables and stuff start to heat up again and grow, the day is over, and then boom. I've kind of nice my backyard southern exposure, so that's got sun all day and no trees. So we do what we can, but a lot of the time I have stuff that doesn't ripen in time, and I start it in my garage with a grow light and a heater because you have to start early here or you got no shot. Now, there's a heat wave that's actually just ending now, which is why this question has come up, because in the Midwest, we saw temperatures, I think 1 day, 2 days, it was 108 degrees Fahrenheit here. And that's quite hot. And to have back to back, that's a lot hotter than a lot of pet reptiles that were born in captivity, that have lived here, or even babies. They've not experienced that type of constant heat and high humidity. Safe for them if you do it right, more dangerous for you if you don't put on sunscreen. So I brought almost all my reptiles outside, but it was caked, burning hot, which felt really good. Because if you go out there for a little bit as a human, it's really hot, but if you kind of just lay there and they're laying there, you kind of adjust to the temperature so you don't feel as hot after 10 minutes. You're not doing any manual labor. But what is the problem that this can cause to your reptile when you're outside like that? And what is the behavioral difference that you will see? And you do see a behavioral difference because the reptile notices immediately how hot it is, right? And this is where you can do damage if you try to interfere with the reptile is doing. So remember, they don't sweat. They don't sweat through their tongue like a dog. They don't sweat through their skin like humans. And so they cannot naturally cool their body. They can naturally heat their body, but they cannot naturally cool their body. So what happens? And this is where we mess up because you can cause them to overheat, have heat stroke, heat stress related things if you interfere. And you may not see this type of behavior until it's hot like this. So I'm going to start with my turtle, but this goes on because my turtles roam and quite fast. So they go out. Normally, most of my lizards will just lay on the grass next to where I'm sitting. I'll have my phone or my laptop up there, and they'll just stay there right next to me. They'll sunbathe, maybe dig a little bit in the dirt, but they stay within a couple feet of me. Very normal, very casual. If you put a ball python down like this next to you, they'll just sit there like this and do nothing. Cool. Get some sense, etc. I've shown videos of my reptiles outside, but now, and that's sometimes what they'll do at the beginning, but they will notice this temperature difference right away. They'll notice the increased UV right away, and that will become uncomfortable for them. And also the way that their brain works, and you can see this because when you put them in an area that's slightly hot compared to an area that's really hot, where they will heat up faster, even though they might get to the same final temperature, they'll just reach it at that point faster. They will, while before they suffer from these heat related problems, they will kick into action. Okay. And so this is what you need to know. Most of the time, they're going to seek cover, which is quite fascinating. So, and especially if you have a well socialized animal, the way they do it is pretty cool. So, my turtle, for instance, Big Bertha, right? They've got far eyesight, they know what they're looking for. And I've shown this on Discord. So, they're going to look for shade. That is the only way that they can stay cool. They're going to look for shade. So, Big Bertha is quite interesting because she will look for within range because she needs to see an open garage door. And she will try to go into people's garages. Normally, she stays on my lawn. My garage is shut. If my neighbors open the garage door, she notices it's open, she goes. If the people across the street or even across the street to the left, she sees that their garage door is open when it's a hot day like that, there's her beeline because she sees a dark, big area. She knows it's cooler. Pretty fascinating. That's when I blocked the bushes. I needed to understand why she was going towards garages. And then I realized, because when I did it on cooler days and I would have the person across the street open her garage, she didn't go anywhere. But on hot days, the garage is open, boom, she goes. So she knows there's shelter from the sun there. It's very fascinating the way their brain works. At first, I thought she wanted to become a mechanic, but no, she just wants to get out of the heat. And the same thing with anybody else I brought up. The first thing that they're looking for is when they notice how hot it is after a couple minutes, they're beelining it to the bushes, or they're trying to dig a little hole or bury themselves in some high grass. And this is where the not understanding part comes into play. So you're out there with, let's say, your snake. Say you got a ball python like this. You're out there on the grass and you've got your snake and it's going towards the bushes. And, you don't want it to go under the bushes because what a nightmare would be to get this thing out of there. Same thing even with a smaller lizard. You pick it up, you bring it back to the front of the grass. Same thing, it's going that way. And you redo and you redo and you redo and you redo. And you want to teach it not to be scared of outside, etc. But actually, you're doing a lot of damage here because one is the reptile's body is heating up, repetitively moving and trying to get into shelter, and you are resetting it. Now, people will be like, well, they do that when it's a cold day because they want to escape the heat or they want to hide or maybe they're scared. You need to understand why they're doing it. If they're doing it because they're scared and it's a cool day, that's fine. But that type of behavior can be repeated for multiple reasons, right? They're trying to get out of someplace for a reason. And when you're trying to get them to overcome the fear of being outside, yeah, you have to teach them that it's not scary. But when it's 108 air temperature, and then you touch them and they're like burning hot, they're trying to escape, you're stressing them, you're also making them work, so that's going to create more body heat, and it's a big downside. And so that's where sometimes not understanding the behavior is a problem. And they don't speak to us, right? We wish they did, but they could do the same thing for different reasons. And so understanding the reasoning and the potential is really important. So you can easily overheat your reptile. People will be like, well, in the wild, it hits X temperature in the air. That's useless. Don't even think about that. That's the dumbest thing ever, and I'll explain why. Because so how do they get these air temperatures? How do they get these surface temperatures, right? They go and they see natively where these things gather and they put a probe. It measures the air. It measures the ground temperature. Fine. But no human is there. They're not being interacted with. So if they are in an area that's hot and they're starting to get hot, what do? They move to an area that's cool. Maybe they go into a little pond, a river, a puddle. They go into the shade of a tree. They go into a little cave. So just because that temperature was marked that they exist in an area that the hottest air temperature gets to this temperature does not mean that they're sitting there for 12 hours a day actively moving around in that temperature. That's just measuring the climate. So a lot of times people misinterpret these readings, and they also misinterpret taking that reading and bringing it to a caged environment. So if we see that in Africa, where savanna monitors are from, we see that, oh, look, it gets to 130 degrees on this high, hot rock. Therefore, we should have their enclosure be at 130 degrees. Well, you have to actually understand the data and you have to understand how to read it. And this is typically the worst part. People don't understand. So, two things. One is, when does it hit 130 degrees and for how long? So, if you've got a variable heat source where you can set the temperature by hour, you could do something like that, or you could have extra heaters turn on for an hour's time and adjust it. Because is it 130 degrees for the whole daylight? Absolutely not. Maybe for the hottest point of the day for 30 minutes, that temperature is there, right? It ramps up and then it ramps down and it's gone. So that's factor one to look at. But then factor two is the animal out when it's that temperature or when it's that hottest point of the day. Do they seek shelter elsewhere, or do they become dormant and not move and save their body heat? And when do they come out? So when you're setting up your tank, a lot of the times when you look at Google and things like that, you see, oh, well, this is from this area, this climate, and this is what was recorded in their area. And you need to process that. So if you
exactly. What you're describing is the core principle of biology.
Get out of here. So my phone's becoming sentient. So you need to understand how to interpret the data, which is really important. And the people misinterpreting it is how you get unhealthy everything, but most of the time reptiles, because they're more important. When you look at veiled chameleons are really hardy animals. Okay, think of them down in Florida. Florida gets frost, they get snow. This animal naturally can live there, can breed there, and can survive there. They're pretty hardy down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. Aha. So, right? So you got to, so it's not like, oh, well, this thing can survive in a refrigerator. No, that cold temperature would be there for so long. But their body is fine at that cold temperature for a handful of hours. And then they heat up and everything gets fine. And then you can repeat the cycle. So a lot of the times, veiled chameleons in their screen tank, they're affected greatly by the temperature in your home. Chameleons can be hard to keep because of that, but they are fine with just a spot where they bask from, and they're fine with the AC running overnight, as long as they're not right by a vent that's blowing 35-degree air. So people need to understand how to interpret that data and push it out. So for snakes, for instance, I don't have a rack system because I'm not mass breeding, although data seems to push towards ball pythons living their healthiest and longest lives in a more simple enclosure or a rack system, is what it is. But then you can't see your animal. So I like a smaller glass type enclosure. Although they are more active sometimes in a larger enclosure, it just seems like their lifespans are cut short. Is it stress? Are they doing things they couldn't do? Sometimes I tell people, I would live a much more healthier life if I could eat a cheesecake every day. Is it healthier? No, not really. It's actually not. But man, those days would be awesome. And then I'll be dead, way sooner, but I was happy. So we need to kind of understand what happens and what is the best, and find the best, median for what you're looking for. But that's why when it's super hot outside, just not to get too off tangent, when it's super hot outside, you have to really be present about what your reptile is trying to tell you with its body language, because that's the only way it can tell you. So if it's seeking shade constantly, you may think it's scared, but it may be overheating, and you dragging it out is going to make it worse. So just be careful on these heat wave days. Now, normally on summer days where it's 80, that temperature is safe, so you can keep taking them out and letting them know that it's safe out here. Talos Canadian $1.49 with a picture of a hamburger. Actually, it appears to be a cheeseburger, perhaps. I'm not sure. Actually, no, it looks like it's a hamburger because those are slanted. So it's probably onions. The typical classic setup: tomato, onions, lettuce with a meat patty on the bottom and a sesame seed bun. Thank you, Talos. Um, if it was closer, I would take that $1.49 and go buy a burger with it and eat it in front of everyone, but it's not happening. But thank you. That money goes towards the reptiles, right? So just anyone who doesn't know the spiel, all the money I make off YouTube, Patreon, etc., GoFundMe's, it's always for the reptiles. It doesn't get spent on me at all. And it's always a negative, by the way. Every year I'm in a negative because rescuing and rehabilitating and vet bills. What snake do you recommend for beginners who do not eat meat? You got really no choice. If you're buying a snake, it's going to eat prey. You don't have to do live prey, especially if you're a beginner. There's very few snakes that will survive on anything else. You're not going to get an egg eater, although they're there. But Melissa, if you're thinking about getting a snake, the best snake, the easiest snake, the friendliest snake is a ball python because it's the easiest snake to interact with. And they get to a decent size for one person. I mean, this is a full grown adult male. This doesn't happen overnight. This happens over the course of, half a decade. So you've got time, but these guys are so friendly. They're so personable. You can't mess them up. So see this, I show this all the time. They always anchor themselves. So if you're to accidentally drop the snake doesn't go and kill itself, right? It's always got a special spot that it holds on to. You can put them on your head. You can put them on your neck. They're not going to choke you. I'll even wrap him or attempt to wrap him. There we go. Right. These guys were ball pythons overseas are called royal pythons. Now, why are they called royal pythons? Because of this. They were actually worn by royalty when they were alive as accessories, necklaces, belts, sashes, and they come in a huge variety of morphs: red, yellow, purple, silver, brown, white. And so, this was a sign of royalty. You could have this live creature that you could go to an 8-hour ball and it would stay like this all night. It wouldn't attack anyone. You can eat, you can do whatever, and you're good. Corn snakes are good snakes for their size. They're just much more wiggly. So you could not normally put a corn snake on like this and wash your dishes, mow your lawn, dust, sweep all day, and this thing won't care. And the heat that you're providing it will keep it nice and healthy. Once they're adults, they eat once a month, they poop once a month. It's the simplest care ever. They don't need UVB light. It's questionable on if they do better with UVB or not. They do need to stimulate the light cycle so they know when it's morning or night, but they're eating whole prey, and by eating whole prey, they're getting the bones and calcium and marrow. And normally in the wild, so ball pythons are night hunters. They have little heat pits that let them see in the infrared spectrum, which allows them to hunt at night. If you've ever watched the movie Predator, you kind of see that view. That's kind of what we imagine their view to be. So, although more basic, no laser targeting, but they're super simple and they're so friendly. I mean, they're the best snake that you can get, but you have to feed rodents. If you buy one though that's already eating, I'll talk about reptilinks in a while because there's a big discussion about that. But if you're going to feed reptilinks, which is ground up meat anyways, then it's actually cheaper and considered better to feed the prey, and you buy the prey frozen, so just like your reptilinks. So you get one that's already eating frozen thawed. You buy the prey in bulk frozen. You keep it in your freezer, or you buy a small freezer just for them. So they're not expensive to take care of at all. You take one rat out, you thaw it in a bucket of hot water. Once it's fully thawed, just like your Reptilinks would be, you feed it to your snake. Done, right? So it's much easier. There's really no fear, especially if you're buying from a breeder. They're probably already eating frozen thawed, so you're good to go. It's quite nice. And so having a snake is cheap. What do you have to do for maintenance? Make sure the water bowl is full. Scoop up any poop, right? So like spot cleaning. When they're shedding, make sure you add extra humidity. You have a heat panel underneath, you're good to go. Do the live end? Did the live end? No, the live did not end. The live is going to be going for like close to another 30 minutes. Hopefully, though, that answers your questions. I don't know why that came out as capital. Hopefully, that answered your questions, Melissa Engel King. Got you, dude. I really appreciate your work. Been following you since COVID, and you work so hard. Talos, thank you. Yeah, so COVID did a lot of bad for the reptile hobby because, and for a lot of hobbies in general, and unfortunately, a lot of things that had live animals, but the reptiles specifically, because people were sitting at home. Some people were on unemployment for even after COVID ended. People were getting government stimulus checks. So people had money to burn. If you had any type of loan, it was put on hold. So now you got even more money to burn. Even though you shouldn't be burning it, you got more money to burn. And people bought reptiles like crazy because they ship, right? They're coming right to your door. You're sitting at home. Let me have this. It's cool. They impulse bought like crazy. We have not seen that for a long time in the hobby, and that just led to a bunch of mistaken care of reptiles. I mean, it was incredible. The amount of reptiles that were basically dead when people were trying to surrender them was so sad. And these are reptiles that should live 2, 3 decades, and they're living 1 or 2 years. It was incredible. And they're not hard to take care of. I like to say no reptiles are hard to take care of. Now, some people will tell you difficulty. There's no difficulty. They're all the same in terms of difficulty, which I would like to say is easy. Now, they take different things, which then for you could make the difficulty difference. Maybe you need to feed meat and you don't want to feed meat. Maybe this reptile needs to eat bugs and you're scared of bugs. Maybe this reptile eats vegetables. So, you can tweak to you. Maybe this one needs to eat a lot. This one needs to eat a little. This one needs a lot of climbing. This one needs water. Does that make it more difficult? No, it just makes it different. And then for you, you're able to see which different scenario fits the easiest for you. But it doesn't make any of them. People are like, this is an advanced reptile. There's no advanced. There's no beginner. There's no advanced. They're all the same. They just need to be set up differently. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Peggy. They are easy and compare. Yeah. I mean, right. So, like, if I were to have a ball python, okay, it eats a rat that's like this. If I had a 20-foot reticulated python, it's going to eat a pig fetus that's like this. The pig fetus will be more expensive. That that snake is going to take bigger craps, right? That are like this. It's going to need a bigger enclosure. It doesn't make it harder. It still eats once a month. It still poops once a month. There's just other things, it's just different on what you're doing. My local reptile shop has a rescue, and they said it's been hard to move the animals out of the rescue. Yeah, it's hard to move rescued animals for cost, and sometimes people try to. You see it all the time when people are also trying to surrender. People are trying to recoup cost, and it really doesn't work. So, if you look at this, let's use ball python. Let's pretend Father Jimmy was a normal ball python, so no special color more. Normally, for a baby, full standard price at like a Petco or PetSmart. So these are big commercial stores, a little bit more overhead, so a little bit more expensive sometimes. Let's say $90. That's how much a fresh, young, healthy baby with a year guarantee of life, and they'll cover the vet bills and blah, blah, blah. That's what it's going to give you, 90 bucks. Awesome. On sale, 70 bucks from these big shops. Wow. Local mom and pop pet store. We're not talking rescues. Local mom and pop store, same thing. They'll be a little cheaper, maybe around 80 bucks. A little bit cheaper, okay. You go to a reptile show, a normal, like 30 to 40 bucks. They're slinging them. Set. So now you're getting a healthy baby, $40. We'll put it at the higher end of that scale. Now you go to a rescue that has a rescued ball python that you don't know how it was taken care of before you got it. You don't know the genetics. You don't know any permanent damage, any health issues, mites, things that may have shortened its lifespan. You don't know anything about the parents and their life, and they want $150 or $200. Oh! So you're getting probably a worse product for 4 to 5 times the cost more, and you're not at just not a good spot, right? That's how most rescues do it, because they're trying to recoup some cost. Rescuing is expensive, and taking in a rescued animal as a rescue is normally way more expensive than taking in a healthy animal, because maybe it needs vet checkups, it needs to be demited, it needs to be dewormed, it needs antibiotics, you need special care for the time until it's healthy. So there's a lot of cost. That's why when I tell people I'm negative taking in reptiles, they're expensive to rehabilitate. And then to try to recoup cost, would you rather have a brand new Ferrari or the exact same Ferrari for the same cost that's rebuilt? On a rebuild, it was salvaged. It's got a salvage title. So some mechanic get it from the ground up, but it's the same cost. You would go to the new one. Okay. Now the same scenario. Here's your Ferrari. This is your salvage title. This is your brand new. Everything's the same colors they make. This one is actually double the cost. But this is brand new from the dealership. This one went through a wreck. It was scrapped. It's got a salvage title. They repaired it. It looks the same, but it's double the cost. Well, I want brand new from the factory. If it's the same cost, why would I buy this rescue? Because it has to come down in cost. Well, how can you do that? How can you put $1 million of repairs into something and then sell it for $100,000? Doesn't make sense. Negative 900,000. So it's the same thing with rescues. If you're truly rescuing, you're going to take a hit and you survive off donations. That's what it is. That's why you always see those videos with the sad music and the animals and donate money to this animal place, because it's expensive and you can't make it back. You can't sell this damaged goods for the same price or more than a brand new undamaged good. It just doesn't make sense. Common sense is not there. So it's difficult. Now, sometimes you get a rescue and you have to compare apples to apples. This is a special morph when this is a normal ball python. So because it's a special morph, it's more than a normal, but it shouldn't cost more than what a new special morph is, right? It should still be under. Basically, you're buying something used. Something used cannot be more than the same thing new if it's an apples to apples. Thanks for bringing all this up for me. It showed how hard it is to care for. And I thought that's what most people took from them. Yeah, Phil Medic is here. Hi. They're not hard. They're not hard. Like I said, I don't think any of them are hard talos. You can easily get into a turtle, but then you need a tank, and then you need a filter, and you need water, and you need a constant and treating it. Because unfortunately, if you're running off tap water, there's too many chemicals. It's not good. It's not good for fish. It's not good for the turtle. You got to purify it. It's really not good for humans. Who knew? So, so you put all these things in. So you just need to know what you're doing. It's not hard, but most of the time you can't impulse buy because you need to get it set up correctly. So just as long as you know, now that doesn't mean you can't go to the store and buy everything you need in one trip. You can easily go to a pet store and say, this is the pet I want, and I know I'm going to need this tank, this heating element, this bedding, etc., and buy all that with your reptile, get all that set up, and introduce the reptile the same day. That's fine. Just need to know what you're doing. Sometimes at these, you have to remember all stores, they're all salespeople, even at the mom and pop, right? But at your PetSmart Petco, you have what, high schoolers? I don't know what type of training they get. They've just got to sell stuff. But even your mom and pop store has to sell stuff to stay in business. They have overhead. So, they can't give stuff away. They can't pay you. So, I only watch your videos and Garden State Tortoise. Yeah, Garden State Tortoise is really, really good. Um, Thank you. Look, by the way, I used to watch a lot of reptile channels, and then I do watch Garden State Tortoise, and I do watch a couple others. I really became, I got to use my words correct here because we're getting near the end of the stream. I really became dissatisfied because I really thought they were starting to be disingenuous because they were starting to really do things for the YouTube algorithm to get views. Maybe they sell things or they themselves are breeders. So they'll tell you how easy it is to have. Oh, this is super easy to take care of. And here, click the link and buy from me. That's disingenuous to me. You don't have clean hands. You're not starting the conversation with clean hands here. Whenever you're a seller and you're advertising how good something is, but it's right, it's shady. It's the used car salesman. I don't like that. But also, you see not a lot of good care. You see a lot of mediocre care. Now, why is that? Well, to do it good may make it look harder. And if I'm trying to sell something and it's harder, not as many people are going to buy it. And I don't like that. Also, you tend to see a lot of people who either just word salads of stuff they read on Google, or just wrong info or old info. And it's really unfortunate because if you're really looking to get into the hobby, you may think something is really hard. I'm going to not say the person's name. There is a reptile channel that I really didn't like, and it's very popular. And they will say, is this the best pet, whatever? And by the way, this is not anything wrong going on here. This is my point of view, and I'll tell you why. And I've brought this up before, but you just light it. And they will show you an animal, and then they will have like a 1 through 5 scale in a couple categories, and then give you an overall on if it's the best. And some of them, and the problem when you're doing that is these are very subjective categories. So you're giving your thought on if these things are good or bad or not, and then you're telling other people to think that. So one of them will be how healthy it can be, how easy it is to take care of it. And then one of them is money. That should never be brought up because what's expensive to me may not be expensive to you. What's valued to you may not be valuable to me. It may not be cheap to me or you. You never, ever, ever should think cost when looking at something because that's subjective to everyone. If you're getting $10 an hour, if you're getting $50 an hour, that should never come into play in your original thought. Your original thought on grading, on looking at something is everything about it. And then you decide if financially you can afford it or not. But financially, if you can afford it or not, doesn't make this bad. It just means you can't afford it. I can't afford a Lamborghini. Does that mean they're bad cars? Of course not. I can't afford Escalades. I can't afford Ferraris. These things don't make, I can't afford to live in a mansion, right? So when you bring cost in and now you're determining if the product is good or not because of the cost, that's foolish. That's foolish. Never bring in cost, ever. You rate the product on the product, and then whether or not you can afford the product, that's up to you individually. Do you have to budget? Do you have to save? Can you just pull it out of your wallet? That's up to you. Not It doesn't make this good or bad. So, and same thing also, sometimes the same channel will say like space. Has nothing to do with this. Completely useless. Maybe you're going to convert a bedroom. Maybe you're building a shed. Maybe you live in a mansion and you got 50 rooms to spare. Maybe you live in a 2-bedroom house. Maybe a 1-bedroom, a studio apartment. Doesn't make this good. It changes on whether or not you can get it, but it doesn't change this. Everything should be rated on it being set up completely. So when I talk about ball pythons, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to rate the ball python. This is how I would rate it. And then you have to see if you can make it work for you. But it doesn't change this rating. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's a disservice and it's disingenuous. And I don't think they're doing it on purpose. They just don't realize how they should be doing it. And I don't know why they do it like that. Like I said, if you look at all these cars, oh, this 90-inch TV, that's the best TV out there, right? It's winning all the awards. Just because I can't afford it doesn't make it bad. That just means I can't afford it. It's still the best one. So it's very disingenuous. But this is how I would rate this, okay? This is an animal that you feed once a month when it's an adult. It poops once a month. You fill the water bowl up. You spot clean. Very easy light requirements. Very easy temperature and humidity requirements. One heat source, etc. This is one of the easiest snakes you can get. 5 out of 5. Super friendly, done. Now, what does it cost? Doesn't change 5 out of 5. It happens to be cheap, whatever. What type of space does it need? Happens to need this much space. The animal itself is still 5 out of 5 because you're just rating the animal. Now we take it to the same thing, a Burmese python. This animal is huge, still eats once a month, but it needs to eat a lot of food, but still super friendly. It's a 5 out of 5 to own. It's friendly. It's easy to take care of and clean. The cycle, you don't have to check on it often. Now, some things to consider. It costs way more, hundreds of dollars, low thousands if you want to morph. It's going to eventually take up this much space. That's on you. That's not on the animal. That's on you. And they don't, to put it on the animal and then rate the animal because of it, not good. Not good at all. And I don't get that feeling from Garden State tortoises, which is really nice. But again, also, it's just shocking how good some animals are when you're selling them. I don't sell any of these animals. So when I'm telling you these things are awesome, that's because they're awesome. You go buy them. You can not buy them. You can own them already. What do I care? I'm just telling you based off of actual experience. And that's the other last part. These are these Google warriors. I hate the people who will be like, oh, here's a top 10 list of reptiles. I've owned none of them, or I've owned 1 or 2 of the things on this list, but also I've only owned 1 of that. Man, you would be laughed at if you tried to publish any type of study that said, here's my research based off of 1. That was your focus group. You had 1, you would just be laughed at, right? That's the smallest sample size. You can't have any less. You can have 0, which is even worse. Could you imagine? And a lot of people do this. So imagine if you try to publish a study based off a 0 sample size. Here's my top 10 list of reptiles. Did you own any of those? No. That's a 0 sample size. Like, what are you basing this off of? Something you read then. Okay. Now, what happens when you base it off 1? That's pretty much 0. I mean, you can't get any closer. You can't have 0.5 snakes. So it's also a disservice and disingenuous. And now you got me ranting about bad reptile people who make, but top 10s get a lot of views, right? Let's say I'm thinking of buying a snake. I'm going to Google or YouTube top 10 best snakes. Ta-da-da! And here's me, it wouldn't be me, sitting and making a video about these snakes. That's not good. It's very disingenuous. Because you're reading, you don't have firsthand experience, you don't even know if what you're reading is true. That's different if you partnered with someone, if you took insights from different owners. So, okay, I have 6 snakes. hardly qualifies me as a snake expert. Throughout, that's what I own right now. Throughout my life, between my family and me, let's say 50 snakes coming in and out of the rescue, and what my brother has, etc., and then what some friends have. Little bit better, but not great. But now, if I also take the input from my friend who has another 10 snakes, that's 60, and then he's got 565, and then people on my Discord and other people in the community. And now all of a sudden, I've taken their input, they've answered my survey questions, and now my sample size is 500. Wow, that's some good information, right? What are your key points to find the best reptile breeder? Oh boy, that's subjective. uh, Honestly, reviews from people who have had their animals, if it's not a new breeder, and if you can see the parents' health, the age of the parents, things like that are very important. And they make a big difference in giving you some confidence. You're hit or miss with genetics, right? But the things parents are great. If when you're looking at captive bred or things like that, if you have a point 0.2 generation, so now this is captive bred, it's 1.1 and then 1.2. So you have the same parents. That's that one, right? 1.3, which is their third laying. 1.4, that's the fourth clutch they've laid. Same parents. Now you see 2.1. Ooh, what does that mean? That means that that original one is the grandparent. You've taken one of those matches that were captive, and now they're the one. So now 2.1, 2.2. So now you have second generation laying its clutch. If you see that, that's really awesome, because then there's a lot of history. But if you have clutches and you do see like 1.7, this is clutch 1.8, that thing's been producing yearly, which is probably pretty good results, right? Some things do lay though more than once a year, so you should know what you're looking at. So you can be like, oh wow, this thing's laid, for 8 years. Not necessarily. If it's something that lays once a year, yes. But the biggest thing is the parents' health. That will always push through, because that's what's pushed, right. Where do you get your genes from? Your parents. So if they've got good genes, that's what's brought down, and that's what you hope for. If you're buying something simple, I mean, sometimes at reptile shows, it's really nice. They'll have all the kids there, the babies, and then they'll have the parents, not for sale, but they'll have the parents, and you can see them live. Like, wow, this male bearded dragon, this is a big dad. He's big, he's muscular, and then the mom is nice size too. So you're like, these babies that are this big, that's where their stuff comes from, and that's what you like to see. You like to see healthy, nice parents. I've seen sometimes the dads, they get up and they sit there and they're buffing their pecs and they got these big biceps. You've seen bearded dragons do this. And when you see the wimpy ones do it, they'll get in the same pose, right? Because they want to look, impressive and dominant. But then when you see the big boys do it, you're like, whoa, that's that. I want his genes in these babies, because that's what I want. So looking at the parents is how you find uh, your breeder. And if they're a new breeder, there's things to look out for. There's reviews, but I got to tell you, reviews are not great. Same thing like sometimes reviews on Amazon. You'll buy a baby, you'll leave your 5-star review because it came great, he shipped great, it looks healthy. And let's say it's supposed to have a 20-year life, and it dies in 5 years. Who's going back 5 years later to edit their review, right? The reviews you see on these breeders are typically your communication with the breeder, and that's done like this. But if you're buying something that's supposed to live like this, that review that came in this section doesn't cover any of this section, it's not a great review. So the best review that covers this whole section are the condition of the parents, especially if they're older parents. If you've got new parents, like here's my bearded dragon, they're 2 and 3 years old, and they're the parents for these. Okay. But if you say, here's my bearded dragon, and here's the parents, 10 and 11 years old. Number one, they're still healthy enough to be breeding. Number two, they lived that long. How do they look at that age? That's great. That's great info. So that's how you find it. All right, I'm wrapping up because I got to go. Does anyone have any other questions for me? Can be on any reptiles or anything like that. Hopefully I answered questions. Please leave a like on the stream and on any videos of you mine. If you leave a like and a comment, even when the stream is done, if you go and comment on it, if you watch anyone's videos on YouTube that you don't leave a like and you don't comment, YouTube sees that you didn't like it. It's a vicious cycle. Stupid, but it's what it is. Snowball says hi just as it's ending. I missed the part. Did you talk about reptilinks? Yes, but I'll redo it for you real quick. So reptilinks are frozen, typically ground up animals, and then you thaw it and you feed it. It's actually better and cheaper just to do that with rats. You can buy the rats in bulk. They come frozen. You thaw, just like reptilinks, you take one out at a time, like reptilinks, you thaw it, and then you feed it. So they're still eating meat, and you're still good to go. I was silently lurking. Ooh, I like that. I have a lot of people like that in Discord, where a lot of people are shy to talk to me. So they'll join when I'm talking with other people, and they'll just sit there and like in the background, in the in the chat, like Nightcrawler. They'll be in like the shadow, just listening. Glad you brought up the. Well, I know Ezra. I've been bringing Reptar outside, Peggy, and I can't wait for. But Reptar is getting too. I have to do another video on him. He's hard to film because he loves to come perch on my shoulder here, and so then I'd be like trying to film like this. But he's becoming very clingy, and I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't stay like that, because when he's Ezra's size, what am I going to do? It's going to be like a dire wolf on my shoulders. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? I'm not silent. Come talk with us. Oh, here we go. I have hard time seeing the but the rodents come. They come pre-killed. They come frozen. So they're like rigor mortis is set in. So they're all like like scrunched up, and you thaw it and you feed it. You don't even have to touch it. Touch it with tongs or rubber gloves, and you're good to go. You'll get over it. Plus, they come clean, Ziploc bag, boom, boom, good to go. All right, last call for questions, and I'm out of here. You know where I'll be going? I'll be going into Discord. There's some Discord members in the chat, and basically, while doing things, talking to them. Patreon, Animal One Guy, $1 a month minimum. Come in, that's $12 a year. Sponsor the reptiles. Come into Discord and hang out. Trust me, being a member of Discord, you get way better than $12 a year worth of content. Melissa, I got over roaches. Yeah, roaches are, well, especially when the rodents are thawed rodents, so they're not even alive. It's quite easy. Roaches are, Peggy is pretty awesome because she got a like fire red bearded dragon, and she has a rhino iguana. So you have a vegetable eater, and now you have someone who needs, nice bugs that are alive. I very rarely can get to shows, especially this time of year, because I work in the IT field, and at this time, Windows 10 support ends in 3 months, basically, and it's really about 2.5. And because of that, it's just blown up for people who waited to the last second, who have government contracts or banking contracts, and they either can pay for extended support or they need to get a new computer because they can't do the free upgrade. And because of that, it's just blown up. So I'm working like 70-hour weeks and on weekends. Good info as always. Thank you, Kelly. But I do always ask if people are local to the Metro Detroit region. I do meet up with people all the time, things like that. And I do go to shows, and I let people know that I'll be going there. And, I actually get noticed like 3 times now. I've been noticed at the grocery store. Kind of awkward. Because I don't view myself as a celebrity, and I never will. I'm just trying to help spread information. All right. Also, I am single, so any good-looking local girls, please feel free. Instagram, DM me. Thank you. Just kidding. I mean, I am single, but I don't need your DMs. It's fine. I live a happy life. All right. Take it easy, everybody. I'm getting out of here. I forgot how to end the stream. Those stupid little pop-ups here. End the stream for me, please. You never do anything for me. Oh, here we go.